Well, hello, and welcome to Minnesota Homeownership Center's 6th episode of the Welcome Home podcast. My name, as always, is Bill Gray, and today we're going to take a look at the recently released 2022-2023 State of Asia America report, and that's produced by the Asian Real Estate Association of America, or AREAA. Joining me are two active members of AREAA's Twin Cities Chapter, Nalee and Doan. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nalee, you're the chapter president this year, so let's start with you. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you're involved with homeownership professionally.
Sure, absolutely. So I am the since 2020, president of AREAA Twin Cities, and AREAA stands for Asian Real Estate Association America, Twin Cities Chapter. There's 43 chapters total. We happen to be one of the newer chapters, Doan being one of the co-founders, of course. And it's been a pleasure serving the organization, doing events, and also a lot of community work and advocacy. So it's been a great 2 years, and I would say thus far, this year has been most impactful in moving the needle and working with other diverse organizations as well in the Twin Cities.
Yeah, really cool. We had that diversity home ownership fair not too long ago, and
yes,
you guys and the other two associations. So great,
yes.
Great. Mm-hmm. Thanks. We're also fortunate to have Doan with us today. You're a real estate broker and CEO of Twin Cities-based Realty Group, and as Nalee said, one of the founders of the AREAA chapter. So maybe tell us a little bit about you, how the chapter got started, that kind of stuff.
Yes. So Johnny Lee, who's now Nalee's husband, and Sai Vang, and along with myself, were the three co-founders of the Twin Cities chapter. AREAA is dedicated to promoting sustainable home ownership in the Asian American communities by creating a powerful national voice for housing and real estate professionals that serve this dynamic market. So with all of the other affinity group, which Nalee already mentioned, that we all work together to promote home ownership. What I like about AREAA is it also open to all real estate professionals. And real estate transaction is one of the biggest financial transaction in people's lifetime. It is also one of the most complicated and complex, with sometime over 40 people touches a real estate transaction.
Yeah.
Because of that, we want all of those professionals to learn and be educated and network together so we can better serve the Asian American communities.
Right. Well, I think that's great. So we're thrilled to have you both with us today, and so let's get to today's topic: the AREAA State of Asia America report. So it's a hefty report. It clocks in at about 40 pages, and I should say it's a look from a national level, not just Minnesota or the Twin Cities. Still, it's a wealth of information on the Asian American Pacific Islander experience in the homeownership arena, and it is instructive to us in our work at the Homeownership Center as we continually strive to meet the specific needs of all the groups we work with. I did have some top line takeaways, and I'll just kind of rattle these off here, and then we can maybe talk a little bit about stuff. So the U.S. AAPI population nearly doubled between 2000 and 2019. It went from 11.9 million to 22.4 million. Here in the Minnesota, nearly 300,000 AAPI individuals make their home here as of 2020. What was interesting to me is 87% of those folks live here in the Twin Cities. So very concentrated in the cities here. One of the findings that I thought was really interesting in the report is they say 65,000 AAPI households are what they refer to as mortgage ready. So that's, credit score, assets, that kind of thing. Even with the high median home prices we're seeing today, 2/3 of these households could still become homeowners without becoming cost burden. And that's when we talk about sustainability as far as home ownership goes and that kind of stuff. So what cost burden means for our listeners and viewers is that they would be able to spend less than 30% of their income per month on housing expenses. And on the topic of being cost burdened, the AAPI population here has the lowest percentage of cost burden households among the different ethnic groups at 24.8%. So save for white non-Hispanic households, that's the lowest. White non-Hispanic sits at 22.7. Finally, 3 out of every 5 AAPI households in Minnesota, or 60%, already own their own homes, and that is quite a bit higher than any other ethnic group, again, save for white non-Hispanic, which sits at 76.9. So let's talk about all those numbers I just rattled off. What is this telling you?
Long, you want to go first?
Yeah, so,
Okay.
as you mentioned, nearly doubles in 2020, right? The AAPI community.
Mm-hmm.
That's over 80-some%, increased. And you got the Hispanic at about 71%, the African-American about 20%. What that is saying is that the Asian American community demographic make up of a large home buyer market.
Yeah.
And, by just looking at the statistic out there, you see that the Asian American community, for the most part, more educated. 33% of all 25 years or older in the U.S. have a bachelor degree or higher.
Mm-hmm.
In the AAPI community, that's over 50% at nearly 55%.
Oh.
So because of that, the income is also, an advantage because only 6.4% of the workforce in the U.S. Are from Asian American, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yet, 1 of every 4 in the technology and mathematics industry is by an Asian American.
Mm-hmm.
So you got good income there, which would help out with down payment and reserves when you go to, as you call it, mortgage ready.
Right.
Then you come to credit score. For the most part, you get very good credit, or maybe the opposite way, little to no credit, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of Asian Americans think debt is a bad thing.
Because they don't use credit.
That's
sometimes.
correct,
Yep.
right? So they don't want to be, even for me, from Vietnam,
Uh-huh.
every new year, the biggest thing is don't carry debt into the next year. So you go try to pay off all your debt.
Oh, interesting.
Right, so that's why we need to educate the community that sometimes it's good to leverage debt and learn how to leverage it and have good debt. And then you've also got the motivation of wanting to own a home because our community is very family oriented. So that's where you might also see multi-generation in the family because that's where you build stability and build tradition and memory. So Asian American. There's still a disparity gap, of course, in all of the demographics there. But the Asian American are most ready and mortgage ready, as you call it, to purchase a home.
Okay.
Yeah, Long said it all. Gosh, Long, you could have left a little something for me to say. But no, he summed it up very well and statistically too. But, all these numbers are really great positive indicators that the AAPI community is really coming up. Whether it's first, second, third generation immigrants, we are coming from multi-generational family households. We want to pursue higher education. We are pursuing higher education. I should say we're pursuing higher paid jobs, and we are wanting to build wealth just like everybody else in America. And so because of that dream that our parents or grandparents were not able to achieve and attain, in the first, second, third generations, being like the new segue into building and creating and attaining that wealth, I think it's really helping us to sustain those numbers because of the fact that the affordability is there. I think the only few barriers that we continue to face is just language barrier, housing affordability, just like right now with a lot of first-time home buyer millennials in the API population trying to purchase a home. Maybe that may have kind of tapped them out of the housing affordability, but they'll be back in the game again once interest rates kind of settle down. But those are a couple of barriers that we face, and then also the credit, right? So because there are a lot of folks in the API community who are also business owners, maybe they don't know how to manage their financing. Maybe they don't file all their taxes because they don't have the education or the resources, right, to have proper training in handling and managing their business and finances. But they have the cash.
Right.
And so that's always like one of the main issues. And I think Long can agree too, is that, never underestimate a hardworking family or individual, right? Because especially if the fact is that if their bread and butter is like growing crops, vegetation, if they're running a restaurant, even though they're hardworking and laborious, they have the cash, they have the funds. And on top of that, they have the support from family, because it is like multi-generational most of the time, mother, father, son, and then daughter-in-law, and then also vice versa, right? Daughter and son-in-law. Everyone helps each other out. Maybe they're all under the same roof. And eventually, once that support system continues, and then one child and their spouse or children are able to merge out, save enough money, then they go and they become first-time home buyers as well. Therefore, then, attaining their education, higher pay jobs. And that is what is, I would say that's kind of the chronological order that, a lot of Asian families tend to practice is support, family support.
Yeah. Oh, very cool. So maybe I'll just throw a few questions out there to follow up. So, Nalee, maybe I'll ask you this. What do you think is the appetite for home ownership among this group? Let's talk about the people who don't own homes right now. And I know we're generalizing, but what do you see as the appetite for this out there?
The appetite as far as like homeowners wanting to?
Do I want to become a homeowner or do I not? Do I want to wait?
Sure.
Sure.
I mean, I think it really depends. I see a lot of first-time millennials at this point. That's my observation experience right now as a real estate agent is I'm helping a lot of first-time millennials, and very, very little percentage are they first-generation immigrants. At this point, it's second and third-generation immigrants. And so what I'm seeing is they are questioning whether or not they want to be off on their own and not be under mom and dad's house, not be with their in-laws, or not bunk with their family and friends anymore, or stop renting, right? So these questions are in mind. Of course, many times when they do want to spread their wings and fly and own their own property and own their own home, start their investment is when they have a family. When they start off that family, it's that one child and then the second child, and they want to have their own piece of privacy. They want to be their own host of their home and events, right? And so because we are like a very custom and cultural ethnic group, we host a lot of different events. And so a lot of folks I tend to hear is, well, I want to be able to have my own space to, do my own events, have my friends over, have my child run, within the fence, or privacy of my own home. I don't want to have a shared wall. I don't want to share a bedroom anymore. So that's the reality of it. And so those are some motivations.
So starter home maybe looks like, what does a starter home maybe look like for what they're looking for?
I mean, with the home prices in the Twin Cities right now hitting at $350,000 average. And in fact, actually just last week, we were running the Twin Cities market stats. It's showing $359,900 now. It was like around $339 just a few months ago. So, I mean, it's really tough, but a lot of millennials are kind of holding back right now because of the recent interest rate increase, and because of that, realistically, a couple of newer first-time home buyers, second generation, third generation home buyers are kind of putting a halt on it for now because of affordability.
Right.
What they once were able to pay for $2,000. Right. $2,000 mortgage now is pushing them up to $2,500, and it's really, it
is really amazing how fast those numbers add up and how fast things change.
Right.
Well, interesting.
I don't know if Long has anything to add to that.
No, that was great. Amazing. No need.
So another question that I wrote down here is when a client comes to you, how in general prepared are they for the whole home ownership transaction? And this is something that, obviously the Home Ownership Center helps people learn about the home buying process. And then we have advisors embedded in organizations all across the state who walk you through the process. So some people come in pretty much ready to go as far as their stats and their paperwork and whatnot goes. And some people, need to take a time out and spend 6 months or a year on fixing their credit. What's your experience with the clients that you serve?
Sure. I mean, it really depends because you've got your clients who are coming to you because they're renting, leases coming up, and they're, they're probably not exactly fully credit ready and also financially too. Most of those folks turn to down payment assistance. They turn to gift money from families. And then they have to either be coached on their credit to get it up to par for FHA conventional approval. And maybe it might take 3 to 6 months, worst case, a year to 2 years to be ready for a home. And then you've got your other buyers who are, maybe living with family. They've saved up, but don't want to, use all their funds. And so they're open to Minnesota housing down payment assistance still. But usually they jump right in. And so they just got to get pre-approved and then, submit all their financial documents and they're ready to go. And so those buyers are pretty quick, and there is substantially more of those than the renters.
Yeah.
Not where they're not ready.
Right. Now we just need inventory.
Right.
So,
yeah. Absolutely.
Long, I was going to ask you, we talked about credit when we first started, and the whole idea of a thin credit file, which isn't bad credit. It's there's just not much there.
Right.
And that's like you said. I mean, in my mind, that's a good thing. But our credit system is set up like it is. How can you help someone when they come to you with a thin credit file? And as Nalee said, plenty of cash. It's just,
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's great to consult with a real estate professional, right? Whether it's a real estate agent or a loan officer that can help you, or the home ownership center advisor. But at the end of the day, it's just understanding the process of buying a home, as Nalee laid out chronologically what you should be doing. So educating them to say, hey, because for especially first and second generation where they came from, there's a big mistrust in banking system from where we come from, right? So cash in the mattress is pretty common. It's jokingly talk about it all the time.
Right.
I think we did a parody once, AREAA, about showing up to closing, right, with Asian people. First of all, anyone out there has worked with an Asian American family finding a home, right? We do things like you show up and there's 6 vans of grandma, grandpa, all the cousins show up for showing, right? And they show up to closing bringing a brown bag of cash. I mean, these are all the things that, is normal. Even looking at the house is feng shui, the address number is a big deal, sometimes superstition, where the door is facing, the color of the door. I mean, these are things you want to be educated when you work with an Asian American community. You understand their concern and you educate them past, all this other stuff. But with that being said, it's the same with the credit file. Which let them know, you know what, you got money. You don't have any debt. It's okay to get a credit card, maybe charge it and then make a monthly payment in full so you don't have interest. But this will show and build credit for you to buy a home. So some people, like Nalee said, might be ready to go. Some might need 3 to 6 months just to set this up so that they're ready to go. But for the most part, the Asian American community have the cash, the down payment, the reserve. They need it. If they don't, family would help, as she had mentioned. So just sit down and learn more about the buyers or the seller. And as you network and get educated by being a member of AREAA. By the way, you don't have to be Asian American to be a member.
There you go.
As long as you serve the Asian American community, you should be a member so you can network and learn. So you start understanding all the challenges they have, and you'll see it's normal. It's okay.
Right.
And a quick fix might be very easy, or maybe just a couple months or weeks, and they'll be ready to go.
Yeah. All right. Well, I always like to ask this question, and it's a particularly interesting moment right now. I think the Fed is meeting today to talk about raising the interest rate another point, which is huge and probably needed. So my question, of course, is now the right time to buy? And I know that there's 100 answers to that.
I feel like that's always like that. That's the first question, whether the buyer or seller is ready to buy or not, or they're just curious. That's always like the curious question, right? That's that $1 million question, and it's supposed to be a trick question, but it really isn't a trick question. And I'm sure that Long has like plenty of agents who go through this, and it's like the best advice we can say is the right time to buy is if it's right for you as the buyer or seller, if you're financially sound, if you're employed full time, you have, You've got your bank statements together. I mean, whether you have them or not, the best way to line up is to consult with a real estate agent, just like Long said, to consult with a lender. But the best time to buy is when it's right for somebody's circumstances, like such as life happens, right? You've got kids, or maybe you have a new addition coming and you really can't fit in that 1-bedroom, 1-bath apartment anymore. Is it right? I mean, it's completely up to the consumer to make that decision. I think as real estate professionals, we really work hard to try to advocate and look for the best interests of consumers. And, in our case, with helping a lot of like first, second generation AEPI home buyers, they tend to always ask that as well. And I always say, well, where do you live? Well, I'm living with my parents. Okay. Do you like it there? No, I mean, I like it, but I mean, it's, it's my mother-in-law, my father-in-law, my sister-in-law, my brother-in-law, their kids, our kids. And then it goes on and on. Right. And that's like a real scenario. And in some instances, and my only question is, well, what do you want to do? And let's check it out to see what your options are. How's your credit, and when was the last time you looked at it?
Right.
If everything lines up, income, finances, credit, I think they're ready to go. Right, Long?
Yeah,
it's like that's a golden file.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's everything she shared has to do with what we call motivation, time, and ability, right? What's your motivation to move? She asked those questions.
Yeah.
When's it ready the time for you or not? Maybe, it's ready now, maybe 3 months. And then your ability, can you get a loan? But still circle back to real estate's also one of the greatest investment you can have in your wealth building. Okay. So I always, we're not giving financial advice or legal advice here. So I say check with your attorney, your CPA and your financial advisor. But there are a lot of advantages when it comes to finances. This is why it's the American dream to own a home.
Yeah.
One is you get the mortgage interest can be, deducted, of course, until the law changes, right? And then you have your depreciation for write-off. You have your appreciation to build wealth. According to the Federal Reserve, homeowners have 40 times the net worth than renters.
Right.
Why? Because you're able to take advantage of the appreciation. Right. So go back to your question: is it a better time to own or rent? We already talked about motivation, time, and ability, but I would say if you do a own and rent comparison, most of the time they'll give you a good idea if you should buy or rent.
Yeah.
Most of the time the answer should be probably yes, because I believe you can either pay your own mortgage or you pay someone else's mortgage.
Right.
That's what I would say about owning a home. You know?
And rental is so expensive in Minneapolis. It's more expensive than in Chicago.
Well, that's what I mean. Most of the time what you pay for rent, you can own a home, but you got to be ready, right? Because a lot of people don't realize owning a home, you have additional expenses on your break, you got to fix. But still, for the most part, owning is still better than rent. Yeah. Also, it's an anomaly the last couple of years how low the interest rate is, 2 and 3%. 6 to 8 is typical, as you've been, we all live long enough now, including Nalee. She's younger than us, so I still remember,
I'm getting there.
Normal interest rates about 6 to 8%. It was even 10, 12, 16%. It's still better to own because of all of that stuff. So yes, the rise in interest rates does affect the ability index and your ability to own home, right? Because for most of us, we live off payments. Right. So we want to make sure that payment, but all means that you don't get to buy as more home. Right. Like the last couple of years, I feel bad for buyers, the buyer fatigue they have. They're competing with 40 other offers and everyone is paying 30, 40, 50,000 more than what the list price is. Why? Because that payment afford them to pay more.
That's a really good point. So yeah, is it the right time to buy? Well, prices here and interest rates are here. They cancel each other out. Well, prices here and interest rates here, they cancel each other out.
That's right.
Right.
If you got this, I mean, the fact was, even when you were here,
you still overpaying
people were overpaying anyway.
Yep.
So that I haven't thought of that before. That's interesting. Another thing I think about is, is now the right time to buy a car? Well, your car just died. It's the time.
Well,
whether
that's
it's
motivation
right or not.
Talk about, right? So remember, motivation is always number one.
Right.
What are you motivated to buy or sell?
Right.
And the timing's number two, and then your ability to do that. Yeah. Even sellers back 10 years ago, foreclosure, short sale, even if they want to sell the home, they can't. Yeah. But here's another challenge that you're going to see. A lot of people, if you was savvy enough, you probably refinance your home or bought in at 2-3%, 4%. Well, now to buy the next home at 6% your payment almost double for you to almost get the same
interesting.
home.
Yes.
Didn't think of
about
that.
it, right?
Yeah.
So now that the shortage in inventory will continue to be there. So I don't think you should wait around. You
that's
just look at buying a home.
Yeah.
You know.
And that's why he can close.
I had not thought of that. That is really interesting. Okay. Well, let's see. Of course, if you are interested in exploring homeownership, here's what we always say at the Homeownership Center. And I got to remember it. We want you to get ready now so you can be ready when the time comes. The time may be now, the time may be next year, the time may be a couple years down the road. But the fact is, if you get yourself ready, then when the opportunity knocks, you're ready to go chase it. And our advisors and our education classes can all help you with that. All of that information you can find on our website at hocmn.org. And so, yeah, it's definitely worth a look. We have our advisors and educators embedded in organizations across the state, everybody from, let's say, Twin Cities Habitat for Humanity to Three Rivers down in Rochester, One Roof in Duluth, just all over the state. And they'll work with you to help get you mortgage ready, educate you in the buying process, and walk you through every step of the process. So anything else you guys want to add or talk about?
I think we covered quite a bit.
The only thing I would say is that we talk about motivation and time.
Yeah.
Time and time again. The ability, a lot of people think they can't buy home. Definitely sit down with a real estate professional or the homeownership center to talk about it. For example, I know rates going up, but look at the seller. They may have an assumable mortgage that you can take over at a lower rate.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid of the ARMS product. Because back in the day, ARMS product wasn't that good because of the prepayment penalty. But now, a 5-year, 7-year, or 10-year ARMS are really good because for the most part, you either going to live in your home for 7 to 9 years or you refinance anyway. So don't be afraid to check out the ARMS product. You might be able to still qualify for a home that you didn't think you would compared to a fixed rate. So I would explore your ability to buy after you have the motivation and the time figured out.
Really good point. And those ARM mortgages, the advisors can walk you through all of the pros and cons of that and what it means so that you fully understand it. So I think that's good. I want to thank you both for being on the show. Thanks, Nalee. Thanks, Long. Thanks for coming on the show. Join us next time when we'll share stats from our 2021 annual impact report. And here's a spoiler alert. We worked with more than 22,000 Minnesota households last year. I believe that is a record. So still going strong on the home buying advocacy side. I want to acknowledge our sponsors, Associated Bank, Midwest One Bank, and Old National Bank. Our sincere thanks to each of these organizations for their support. And that'll do it for us today. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks. Good stuff, huh?
Right.
Yeah. Oh, thanks, Long. You covered a lot. I didn't have to.
MBC. No relation to NBC.